Buffalo's going to win it, folks.
Kick your heels up and down.
Let's see why the Buffalo Bills are en route to the playoffs.
Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout.
Buffalo Bills go undefeated. And we're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Now, baby. Come on, come on.
No one
Come on
circles the
and
wagon
shout.
like the Buffalo Bills.
All right, listen, we are live and we are back. I'm really excited today. This is another episode of the Overdue Bills podcast, and listen, I know you see it. Back better than ever. But before I get to him, let me introduce our guy, Matty Ice, aka All Black Matt. Matt, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm ready for some Bills Steelers football here. I'm ready to talk with our guy Stryker. I'm excited, man.
Absolutely, and clearly, Matt, he's let the cat out of the bag, literally.
Right here on my lap.
All right. But our guy Stryker, he is back with us. Stryker, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Sam. Matt, great to be with you again, man. We had so much fun last year talking, and was looking forward to a playoff matchup. Unfortunately, we couldn't let that. It didn't happen for us because I would have loved to get on for the playoffs as well. But we're back for season 2, first game of the year. I'm psyched. I know you guys are psyched as well as the whole Bills fan base.
Absolutely. Listen, we are excited. We are truly excited. And before we get into this amazing show, Matt, I need you, Matt, to let the people know who this show is sponsored by.
Yes, sir. This show and every other show is brought to you by none other than Buffalo Wing Kings. Being from Buffalo, the guys here at Overdue Bills podcast, and there's two things that we know. That's Bills football and that's wings. Our first choice and the best choice is Buffalo Wing Kings. With over 101 different flavors in their beloved Wing of the Month special, Wing Kings is sure to school every other wing place around. Opening up another location on the University District on Main Street, coming very, very soon. I'm told the first couple weeks of football season. Check that out. Available for Bills games, parties, just any time you want to go get some wings, hit Wing Kings up. Stop by their Elmwood Village location today at 484 Elmwood Avenue, or give them a call at 716-248-1427 and find out why they say and we know they have the best wings in town, hands down. And also make sure to mention the Overdue Bills podcast and get 10% off your order.
Absolutely, 10%. We know the price of wings has gone up. I know you want
Crazy.
your wings for the game. Please drop Overdue Bills name. You get that 10%. And listen, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Because we have merch. Listen, me and Matt, we've been running around. We've been going to a couple banks here and there. No loans. But listen, we have merch. Listen, I know the Bills game is here. First home game of the season here this Sunday. Listen, we got T-shirts, we got hoodies, we got everything. Listen, and also overduebillspod.com. Overduebillspod.com. That's the website. We're getting our store set up right now. Our editor-in-chief, Mike Daniels, he's actually doing it as we speak. He's literally getting it done as we speak. So
yes, sir.
Listen, please go check that out. We have some articles there for you, some interviews that we did in the offseason. But listen, we're excited today. Because we have our good guy Stryker. I got my guy Matt. And every show we start with the quick question of the day. But I wanted to do a little twist. And we're going to do a quick trivia of the day. All right, and I got some trivia for Matt and Stryker.
Yes, sir.
I'll go to Stryker first. All right, first question.
Oh, great.
I know. First question for you.
Okay.
What is the Steelers' all-time record against the Bills? And I'm going to give you some options. I'm going to give you some choices.
Interesting. Okay.
A, I have 15-9 Steelers.
Okay.
B, I have 16-8 Steelers. C, I have 12-12 even.
Okay.
Or D, I have 13-11 Bills. Stryker, which one?
Well, considering that the Bills entered the league in the late 60s, that was the 70s heyday. 80s very much slanted toward Steelers. I know the 90s got slanted toward Buffalo, and we've had some tough regular seasons, I guess, here last since the 20s. So I'd have to say it would probably be toward the Steelers. And what was A and B? What were the numbers on those again?
A was 15-9 and B was 16-8 Steelers. So, right.
Yeah, well, they're both about the same. I'd say 15-9 would be my guess.
Wow. Ding, 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 ding. That's it.
Yes. I didn't even have to cheat.
I know. He has that 15-9 Steelers. The Steelers is leading the Bills in the head-to-head record. All right.
But they're both good franchises. That's why. That's why those numbers are up there. They're relatively close.
Absolutely. All right, Matt, I got a question for you. What is the Pittsburgh playoff record against the Bills? Is it A, 3-0 Steelers? Is it B, 2-1 Steelers? Is it C, 2-1 Bills? Or is it D, they've never met in the playoffs?
I know this one.
I think they have met in the playoffs, so I think I'm gonna actually go with 2-1 Bills. Maybe I'm wrong.
That is
that's right.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Oh no, that was my guess too.
It is actually B, 2-1 Steelers.
Oh,
And
okay.
Pittsburgh beat the
Wow,
Bills.
so they only lost in 1990 against the Bills.
Well,
wow.
So Pittsburgh beat the Bills.
Yeah, I remember that game.
In 74. That's the AFC playoffs in 74.
Okay.
32-14. They fell to Buffalo in 92. That was Bill Cowher's first season.
First season, yep. That's what I remembered it that way. Yeah.
And then they beat us in 95. Or you beat us.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. And so this is the last question I have. And both of you can answer this. All right. So what is, hear me, the Steelers' biggest margin of victory against the Bills? Okay. A, 35 points. B, 28 points. C, 42 points. And D, 27 points.
I'm gonna go with D. I think I may have been at that game. I think it was a recent one.
27.
I think it was 27.
Okay.
I think they beat us like 33-6 or something like that. I'm pretty sure I can see that. Just
Yeah, I remember mid 90s. There's a Monday Night Football game. It was right after Levy left. It was right after the end of the Super Bowl era for the Buffalo Bills. And I believe that one was a blowout. I thought the Steelers won by 30-some points in that game. And that would have been my guess.
So it's A, 35, B, 28, C, 42, or D, 27. Which one?
I'll say 35.
Okay, so you got A, 35 and you have D, 27. And both of you are incorrect. It is actually B, 28. Okay. Unfortunately, in 1979, the Steelers beat Buffalo 28-0. And interestingly enough, Franco Harris, he had 100 yards rushing that game. All right. So I know, right? I just wanted to give a little.
Was OJ playing in that game too?
I believe so. They when I looked this stuff, obviously I had to look it up. I wasn't born. It was a lot of OJ questions, a lot of OJ trivia. Yeah. And
he was that era. He was phenomenal in the 70s.
In the 70s,
phenomenal.
Yeah. He was. So it was a lot of OJ. So shout out to OJ Simpson. Shout out to trivia. All right, let's get into this show. And before we really get into the matchups, and I talked to Stryker, pre-production, and I just told him I'm gonna throw it to him because me and Matt was talking about this, before when we got together, and the big elephant in the room is none other than yours truly, T.J. Watt. I mean, we really don't have. We can't go further without dealing with T.J. Watt. So, Stryker, I'm just gonna let you have the floor.
Okay, well, T.J. Watt is a big deal. I don't know if Bills fans are aware of this or not, but the past 2 days, this morning with our defensive captain Cameron Hayward, yesterday with our offensive captain, Hall of Fame franchise quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, both of them coming out severely in defense of T.J. Watt, saying, pay the man. Wow. He's the best player in the league, period, not just defensive player. He should get whatever he wants. The team is behind T.J. Watt 100%. So the two team captains have drawn a line in the sand. I just actually wrote an article on this morning about the captains drawing a line in the sand to the front office, stating that, right now we're at a point with these negotiations that with the captains speaking out for T.J. Watt, best case scenario is like they're upset going into the seat, like if there's no contract, they're just going to be upset. But worst case scenario, there's going to be a full locker room mutiny.
Wow.
And I don't think it's going to get to that point. I just think that they're really trying to support the player that's up for his contract this year, looking to get paid this season. And now you got to go back historically for the Steelers, who rarely give anything beyond the first year for guaranteed contracts within the signing bonuses. Sam and I talked about here before the show started.
Right.
I looked up some numbers here, and the biggest contracts just most recently here, Cam Hayward, the defensive captain, just got just a hair over $26 million guaranteed when he re-signed last offseason.
Wow.
Ben Roethlisberger in 2015 got $31 million guaranteed. That was all signing bonus. And he got $37.5 million guaranteed in 2019 for his extension, which he actually ended up taking a pay cut for some of that. But that part of it was still given, the $37.5 million he earned. But I forgot to mention about Hayward. Of that 26, the $20 million was guaranteed, just a hair over $20 million. The day he signed, there was an additional, it looked like $6 million that came out after his signing. So that is the only instance that the Steelers currently have for a player not being on a single year for guaranteed money. Wow. So that begs the question, how much guaranteed money is TJ Watt worth? I was thinking in the 50 million range, but the Steelers, it's definitely going to be over Ben Roethlisberger's 37.5.
Yeah. I mean, at that position too, it's like, you have the quarterback, and then usually the defensive end it's probably the second largest, maybe the corner, but that position, he's going to be calling.
It's your edge guy. And on definitely. Your 4-3 teams like you guys, it's definitely your defensive end. On 3-4 teams like we are, it's definitely our outside linebackers.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because we were talking about this on some previous shows, because I think it was NFL.com. They released the top 100, NFL players, and Josh Allen wasn't revealed. He was in the top 10, and obviously TJ Watt was as well. And we kind of debated that, right? We said, do you think that Josh Allen is over TJ Watt, or is he more valuable? I guess it's a good time to kind of ask that question. So I'm going to Matt first, the Stryker. So Matt, do you think that Josh Allen is more valuable than the TJ Watt?
Well, I definitely think so. I think.
Well, is this top player or most valuable for the team?
Well,
I
guess okay.
Because if we're going top player for the NFL, that's a different conversation than most valuable for the team. Because I'm with you guys 100%. Josh Allen's 100% more valuable to his team than TJ.
Let's just do top player, right? Like, do you think that Josh Allen should have been over TJ Watt in that list?
Okay, gotcha.
I guess I'm gonna be biased, but I think so, just because of his growth, and also just the level that he played on with what we put around him. You know what I mean? I guess you can have the same argument for TJ Watt. Bud Dupree went down and he still performed at that level. Right. But I would go with yes.
Okay, Stryker, how do you feel?
Well, I'm a Steeler fan, obviously, and but here's my argument, at least, for stating that TJ Watt should be above Josh Allen, and should be, in my opinion, I think he's a top 3 player. And I know he wasn't. I think he came out in 8 or 9 or something like that. And my reason is I think he is he's the 2-time should have been defensive player of the year. I know we had the cornerback edge him out 2 years ago. I know he and Arnold too were real close. Arnold took it last year. He was only better in one metric than TJ Watt. And TJ Watt had him on tackles for losses, had him on sacks, led the league in sacks. That's one of the rare times you had a player lead the league in sacks significantly more above anybody else, and have more TFLs in the league and quarterback pressures way over anybody else, and didn't win defensive player of the year. So that's my argument. I know Darnold's always, he is a monster, yes, in his own right. And these are the arguments that we can have as fans, because they are all equally valuable players to our team. But for me, I think TJ Watt could be on any team in the league, be in that spot, and excel in any system. The guy is a monster, and I think he's hungry. He's got that Watt mentality. He's trying to be the best player in his family first. before he can be the best player in the league, because his brother's got like 2 or 3 defensive player of the years already.
Right.
So I'm sure that's what JJ's always pointing. Here you go, TJ.
Yeah, exactly.
3-1.
Yeah, you're good, but you're not me. You know?
I know.
So let's not get crazy. I'm getting the first helping of mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving, bud. Talk to me when you win one. All right. Let's go.
That's the dog in this guy's fight, man. And you can see it when he comes out on the field, and you put him, you tell him to stick the quarterback. I mean, he's playing with the heart of a Watt, and he's got more wattage than just about any other player in the league.
No pun intended. I like it.
Pun definitely intended.
Pun definitely intended. I'll say this. I was going back and forth. Like on one hand, I don't want TJ Watt to play, right? Like clearly he's an amazing player. But on the other hand, right, to beat the man, you have to beat the man. And I do. I want to see him. I want to see, the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to talk about this, our offensive line, see if we can hold up against a TJ Watt. Like, we have to see that. But moving forward, because we're going to get into all of those things, we're going to, break down matchups and that. But how I wanted to get into it was, last year we played. Right, we had that trivia question, but last year we did play a Buffalo Edge. The Steelers out 26-15. This was obviously in December. It was colder. The weather was a little bit different than it is now. And Ben Roethlisberger did not have a good game at all. The running game was literally non-existent for the Steelers. And I have a question for you, Stryker. First, what is the biggest area that the team needed to improve, during the offseason? And like the follow-up is, did you improve?
Yeah. Offensive line, running game. That was it. Our owner, Art Rooney, said, we got to improve the running game. So what did they do? First 4 picks, Naji Harris, number 1. Number 2, Pat Freiermuth, two-way tight end, blocks, hits, does everything. Catches touchdowns, catches passes.
Apparently.
Third, Kendrick Green, a guard that played at center in the Senior Bowl and did so well, the Steelers are like, this guy's going to be our center. Took him in the 3rd round. Fourth is Dan Moore Jr., now our tackle, left tackle, blind side for the Steelers. And the incredible thing is all 4 of them are now listed as starters.
Wow.
Steelers have never had more than like 1 offensive starter in the rookie class in 1 year. And not even to mention our starting punter that we got in the 7th round and Presley Harvin the 3rd, but 4 offensive players coming in to play as starters. So that alone is supposed to improve our running game, because what we had before, we had a banged up Pouncey by the end of the year. We had a banged up David DeCastro, who was already talking about retirement and possible retirement with his bone fragments that he was playing with. So those guys weren't at 100%. Now we have our entire left side already replaced. Kendrick Green's there in the middle. Dan Moore's starting because we have some injuries on the line. We don't have Zach Banner out there. Zach Banner is that monster. Like, he destroys people. And I'm saddened that he's not starting the season. He's on IR for us. So in that instance, he's now our left tackle. They moved Chooks from left tackle back over to his right tackle spot, which is where he started last year. So we have a guy there that we know can play the right tackle spot because he did it all last year. And we have a guy that's a rookie that we're putting in his natural spot, so he doesn't have to learn how to do it mirror imaged on the other side coming into the NFL. So it should be better for him. But at least for those 3 players, the guy right in the middle between those 2, a guy by the name of Kevin Dotson, he was drafted the year before. He came in as one of both games that he played, both at right guard and left guard last year. He was like PFF's highest rated guard those weeks. The guy can play in the NFL, and he is a road grader as well. Those 3 guys, those 3 young guys on the left, I have actually more confidence running it on the left with our young guys than I do running on the right with our veterans.
Wow.
Chooks on the outside and Trey on the middle, right there in the coming in the middle.
So let me ask you this, Matt. We know that obviously the offensive line was a huge problem for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and like they're trying to get it together. Stryker just laid it out, you know what I mean? The picks that they had and like the pieces that they move around, getting rid of some older, linemen that they, had on the line for a long time. So, Matt, do you think that that's an advantage for the Buffalo Bills, seeing that we went, obviously one of our issues was rushing the quarterback? You know what I mean? And we hammered that hard coming out to the draft, similar to what they did just on the opposite side. So do you think that there may be an advantage for us trying to get after the quarterback?
Well, just from not watching any Steelers, games or anything, any preseason with the young guys, I would give the advantage just from watching the Bills, just from watching the two young guys we drafted in the first 2 rounds, Greg Rousseau and Boogie Basham. With the help and addition, which is also going to be a key thing this week because he's actually on the only guy on the did not participate list for practice this week in Star Latulele.
Wow.
He has a calf issue going on, and he did not participate yesterday in practice. They didn't release it yet today, so I'm not sure if he practiced today. He was the only one on there, but that's a big factor for those guys on the edge is the guys in the middle, but also Harrison Phillips was a full participant, so that's a good thing to see. If Star can't go, we'll have another guy in the middle, and also a Justin Zimmer and a Vernon Butler who played against the Steelers last year. And Ed Oliver, of course, they played against the Steelers, so that could help out. But I would just from not watching the young guys on film, I would give the advantage to Russo and Basham just from the stellar preseason they did have against the teams that they faced off against. Right. That's what I would say about that. But a big, like, I guess a star, an asterisk would be Star too, in that whole advantage thing.
Absolutely.
Especially since Star's been out all last year, wasn't he? Yes, he declined for COVID, he's a monster, and that was a big part of the running game, at least from the other side, because he blocks. He takes up people, and he'd be able to free up like Ed Oliver, right? Being able to use his athleticism more next to him. So that's huge.
No, that's what I mean. Ed Oliver had to take that role last year in taking on the double teams that he's not, that he obviously he was taking on in college, but the college guys weren't NFL linemen. They weren't NFL linemen. So two guys there he wasn't able to quite get his athleticism to show. Now with Star there to eat up the space, he'll be able to shine, I think.
But I will say, though, I think that Buffalo probably has – though I'm saying that the Steelers are better with the running attack. When the Steelers go into pass block, whoever's coming in off of your right edge on that rookie, Dan Moore Jr., they might have a good game. So that's the question mark. That's where we're going to have the tough. And even Chooks is still he can still get beaten by speed rushes on the from the right tackle spot too. So this is going to be really interesting to watch those matchups, your edge versus our tackles.
Well, that not just that is and also Greg Rousseau we drafted. He's 6'8". They call him Groot. I think he has like a 7'2" wingspan.
That's great.
So I think the style that the Steelers throw the ball out of short passes and stuff, he'll be able to get his hands on a lot of those. That'd be really difficult for Ben. I don't know. Maybe
you think you're playing last year's Steelers?
Yeah, true, very true. Like I said, this is why we have you here, because I did not watch any Steelers preseason. I will admit that. So I'm just going kind of based on the Bills side, and you're right. I'm going off of last year's tape.
Right,
absolutely. Correct. That's funny that you said that, and that's exactly why we're here. And kind of how I really wanted to conduct the show was to kind of like feed off of each other, because we're going into matchups, but I wanted to go into it like this. Because I know last year it's a different Steelers team, but Stephon Diggs kind of went off last year on the Steelers, right? 10 catches, I think 130 yards and a touchdown. Like it was just amazing. So I wanted to ask you, Stryker, how do you feel about the secondary? I'm hearing like James Pierre is supposed to be a decent player. He's supposed to stir up some secondary issues. I'm not really sure. So can you lay that out for us? Like how do you feel about your secondary this year?
I don't feel as good about my secondary this year as I did last year.
Wow.
You get me Hilton in the slot, which I told you about Mike Hilton before we went into that game. You knew who he was after he started hitting you guys.
Right.
I mean, I told you guys are going to learn his name. But he's no longer there in the center of the field. You had, Cam Sutton, who was our second slot / Swiss Army knife. We moved him everywhere, safety, in the dime and the nickel, and also played some edge corner as well. But what they're finding is the Steelers didn't have an answer to that middle slot by losing Mighty Mouse and Mike Hilton. So they're like, well, Cam, we were going to put you on the edge and we were expecting you to play opposite of Hayden. But we got to bump you down inside now, because the guy that was the heir apparent was our actually rookie from last year, Brooks, and from Maryland, and he got hurt So the Steelers had to waive him injured, and I think he got picked up off of the Rams. I think maybe got him, or Denver. One of those teams ended up grabbing him for the practice squad. But he was supposed to be our slot guy this year, but he got banged up. They moved Cameron back down in, and then they picked up Witherspoon from Seattle and Pierre, who's also a long, lean guy like Witherspoon. Steelers like to have these 6'2", close to 6'3" cornerbacks to try to defend these faster, taller receivers coming into the league now, because you need some height and size other than having these 5'9", 5'10" guys that we've been used to getting trying to play the edge that just have no chance of defending against some of these well-thrown higher balls and comeback routes. So that's why they like Pierre. They like Pierre because he's a long, lean guy, and plus he's got a great quick click and close in the running game, coming off of his man to make the tackles in the bubble screen game, in the rushing attack game, and he's really, really good at that. That's how you get to start on the edge in the Steelers. If you show you can tackle, also while being able to play your edge position, you're going to be a starter on the Steelers.
So Matt, let me ask you this. Right, you talk about matchups. And our wide receivers, I think it took a step up. I mean, in my opinion. And Gabe Davis, Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, we just picked up, obviously, Stephon Diggs. So, Matt, can you talk about that to the Steeler Nation, about our wide receiver core? How do you feel that they're fair against the Steelers?
Well, I'll probably say it every week when we do this. I'll put our receiver core up against any secondary in the league, and I think that they're going to win. They're going to come out on top no matter what. You know what I mean? It's really all dependent on the guys up front giving Josh some time. Like they're going against some dogs. I would not cry if TJ Watt didn't play this week. But they got you got TJ Watt coming, you got Cam Hayward coming. They're playing against some big dogs up front. So he's got to have a little time to throw those kind of routes to those guys. But I definitely think that with our receiver core, even the guys, coming off the bench, you got like I would call him, like, I guess in Madden, like an X, not really an X factor, but a guy that Dable is going to use a lot, in Isaiah Mckenzie, who was also off the injury list and is looking like he's going to play this Sunday after that shoulder AC joint scare. It's looking like he's a full participant. He's ready to roll. So that's good news for us. So I'll say I'll put our wide receivers up against anybody and think that we're going to have the advantage for sure.
I'm glad you said that. And I'm sure I asked this question last year, so I'm going to ask it again to Stryker. Who has the better receiving core, right? We just named, our Buffalo Bills receivers, and, we clearly know, if you play fantasy a little bit, clearly Deontay Johnson, shout out to him, I got him, Chase Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I will say this in the interest of full disclosure, one of my fantasy leads, our guy Tony, he did draft Pat Freiermuth, but I think he just dropped him. But he did draft him, though. You think he should keep him? Is he good enough?
Yeah. Fantasy guys, your PPR leagues, you're going to want to take DJ, because he's going to get Deontay Johnson. He's going to get the majority of targets. Right. He's our X receiver. Our X receiver in our system always gets a majority of the targets. Plus, he's one of the top rated wide receivers at separation on his routes. He led the league 2 years ago. I forget what he did last year for PFF's metrics for every route that he runs, how much separation he gains. It's like 1.7 yards of separation every time he makes a move. The guy is sick, and he just has to hang on to the football, and he hangs on to that football. I was just
about to ask that.
Yeah, he's going to even just explode even more. Then you have like Pat Freiermuth. I just want to address this quickly. The guy doesn't drop the football. He is a magnet for the football. He went through all of college at Penn State in the Big Ten, never once dropped a ball in the red zone.
Wow.
Never once. That's insane. And he just, and in his only time playing with Ben Roethlisberger, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. To Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth might not get the bulk of the attempts, the bulk of the receptions, but he's going to get touchdowns, and he's going to get a lot of them. Okay. I think he's going to be the secret weapon in the red zone, because especially since we get to tight quarters, we're going to have both tight ends, both Ebron and Freiermuth's going to be on the field, and Freiermuth just shows Ben's got to trust with him, and he had to trust in a guy named Heath Miller that he would throw that ball up to any time in the red zone, and 9 times out of 10 Heath Miller would come down with it. So Fryermuth might be Miller Jr. It's cracking your Miller lights for that. But to continue, at least for the Steelers on their players, yes, of course, you got Claypool stretching the field. He's trying to get touchdowns. He's trying to get big yardage per attempt. Then you got Juju Smith-Schuster as a big slot. That's what he is. He's big slot on our team. And that is a mismatch for anybody in the league who's used to watching the slot player be tiny and being able to hit him and to run with him. This guy's big. You're going to be draped on him, and the guy's still going to catch, and he's still going to dive and reach and fall forward. Like, that's Juju's role. Then we have a guy coming off the bench in Washington who'd be starting on, just about every team in the NFL. He'd be in their top three. But he just can't crack above those three. They're good players. We got another scat back slot by Ray McLeod as well. You might see him in on some packages. He's our punt and kick returner. But if you're going to, so I do love the Steelers receivers, but if I'm going to compare them to the Buffalo Bills receivers might be the best in the league.
Wow.
I mean,
we got
just flat out. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders and Diggs, just that 1-2 is probably better than just any other 1-2 combination in the league. It's just phenomenal. The amount of guys you got. Yeah, you're 4 deep as well. Easily.
Yeah, I'm about to say Beasley was an all-pro in the slot. So that's another.
Yes.
So that's another thing. And then Gabe Davis, I'm a huge
coming off the bench, Gabe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so easily. Your top four is better than our top four, and it's probably better than anybody else in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to get accused of burying the lead. So we got to talk about I guess the Steelers' biggest addition, right? We have to talk about the Steelers' biggest addition. And that's Naji Harris, right? I mean, that's Naji Harris. And to me, I think this is sort of where the rubber meets the road, because obviously last year the Buffalo Bills have had trouble with stopping the run. Like, you know what I mean? We just had trouble with stopping the run. And so let me go to you first, Stryker, and then to Matt. What elements will Naji Harris add to your offense?
One of the biggest things that Naji Harris can do is break tackles and make his own plays. Like, he is the most athletic, totally athletic running back we've had since Le'Veon Bell. I think he has better top end speed than Le'Veon Bell. He's one of these rare players that has a great blend of spin moves and finesse moves, high jumping, hurdling players, and power than just about any player we've ever had. I think Bell was more of a complete finesse guy. This guy has some power as well. So he's able to kind of like take it both ways. Now, Bell was more of a polished receiver. Naji is an excellent receiver, not still as polished as Bell was, but he's got the potential to be there. He's making some one-handed catches out there in traffic and in games. One of the preseason games he did, and he had a rip off for like 40-some yards on a essentially a dump off release pass. So you get this guy in space and he can make plays. And the biggest thing that I love about the guy, what he did all through college, he didn't put footballs on the ground.
Right.
And honestly, it's one thing we rarely talk about when we talk about our running backs, but that's probably their most important job, is to retain the rock. Don't put the ball on the ground. Don't give the ball to the other team. And that's something that he does better than, anybody else coming out of college. I think he only had one career fumble in Alabama, playing in the SEC against all that talent on defense in the SEC. That's amazing to me.
Yep. He just dominated.
So Matt, how, do you think that we should be, I don't want to use the word worried, but cautious about Naji Harris? Because obviously, like James Conner, he just didn't do it, for us last year. Like I think he only had 43 yards in the last game. Do you think that's a person that we need to key on? Like Tremaine Edmonds maybe need to focus on him?
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely you gotta know where he is, and then I'm gonna I guess go back to the star thing. Tremaine Edmonds, he had a Pro Bowl season, but he really struggled without the big guys up front to kind of eat the space up, open the lanes for him to shoot in and make the tackles. So I think his first year he had Star and he had big Jordan Phillips, who I think is now an Arizona Cardinal, kind of eating up that middle space. So he's a really big guy, and he was able to see back in the backfield pretty easy and able to shoot through. So I think that will help him, if Star plays, and we also have Harrison Phillips and Ed Oliver to kind of take that space for him. But you definitely got to know where he is. He's I think, Pittsburgh, they run the ball, at least they have historically. They want to run the ball a little bit. So, and Najee Harris, like Stryker said, is probably their best guy since Le'Veon Bell. He's not, I think he's a head above where James Conner was. So you definitely got to know where he is for sure. Tremaine Edmonds is going to have his hands full this weekend for sure.
Now, so let me ask you this, Stryker. Just plain and simple, do you think that the Pittsburgh Steelers can slow down Josh Allen?
The only way to slow down Josh Allen is to get there with the pass rush. And outside of that, because these receivers, they're going to get open in 3 seconds. And if you give them 5-6 seconds, they're going to gash you. If Josh Allen can get to the edge and make a play down the field, that's a tough spot. Now, what the Steelers have to do, they have to utilize their edge players, Watt and Highsmith, to make sure that they can contain him, keep him in the middle of the field so he doesn't get on the edge, but they have to get to him and get to him quickly. They've got to put him on the ground because that's the only way you're going to stop Josh Allen. Even sticking hands up. I mean, he's a taller quarterback. He's a tougher guy to knock passes down than a lot of other quarterbacks across the league, as you guys know, watching your team. Right. It's like a young Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, the guy was almost impossible to knock down passes in the past with even having these big, lanky, armed defensive ends that know when to put up their hands and know how to knock down passes. I'd be surprised if the Steelers had more than 2 knockdowns the entire game, and that would be a good game in my opinion.
Yeah,
but and one other thing too, just so I can reiterate and stress for you and your fan base, TJ Watt is playing this week, and you're like, maybe he's not going to play. Maybe he showed up at every single practice. Even though he didn't participate in team drills, he participated in individual drills every single meeting. He did not hold out for the Pittsburgh Steelers at practice. He was there every day with the teams, got all the mental reps. He knows what his job is. Get out there and stick the quarterback. Yeah, that's his job. He's going to do that on game day. And also, even if he doesn't have that contract, he is under contract. He's still on his 5th-year option that the Steelers have a guaranteed $10 million in his pocket. I think even if it doesn't get done before the game, the contract, I expect Watt to play, and I expect the Steelers to do something that they rarely do, and that is finalize a contract within the season. It may take another week. It may take another 2. And until they finally get to that number where they both can finally agree on it, and it's done and bring him in. But he's too much of a competitor. This guy wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. He wants to be the best defensive player ever. So he doesn't – and you cannot do that if you miss games. Right. So he will be on the field, and that is going to be the big mismatches. So you got to tell me, how do you see your offensive tackles going up against the edges for the Steelers?
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty much it's the same guys as last year, so they know what they're getting, and they luckily they had that game to play against them. So I would say against for our receivers, I don't think, even if we had an all-world right tackle and left tackle, which I think Deion Dawkins at left tackle can be a potential all-pro left tackle, I still don't love TJ Watt rushing the passer against him. I think he's always going to have the slight advantage.
TJ will be attacking your right tackle.
I know. That's what I mean. Even if we had an all-world tackle, it would be. Gotcha. I would give TJ Watt the nod.
Absolutely.
So they're gonna have to figure out a lot of Reggie Gilliam fullback, pass rush support and all that kind of. They're gonna have to do a lot with tight ends chipping. They're gonna have to account for him at all times. So I guess to say, I think that Josh is obviously going to know where he is and going to know he has to get rid of the football. And even though Josh, he'll kind of sit back longer than a lot of other quarterbacks, because I don't think he believes that any defensive tackles or defensive ends can bring him down by themselves. But he's definitely got the nod over the tackles. So I would definitely be worried about TJ Watt on Sunday.
Wonderful. Let's transition a little bit. I do want to get in some over-unders, some predictions. Obviously, I know that's what the people want. But first, we have to go to our trusty segment, which is expectations versus reality. Expectation versus reality. But before we do that, Matt, please let the people know who is sponsoring this segment.
So this segment is brought to you by Buffalo Pet Supply. Do you have a pet? Are you looking to get a pet? Or do you know someone who has a pet? There's only one place to send them for everything that'll make that pet live its best life. Buffalo Pet Supply. Specializing in fish, small animals, and reptiles, the knowledgeable staff at Buffalo Pet Supply will give you everything you need to maintain that pet setup or start up the setup that you want for your pet to have. Stop on down to 1345 Military Road and ask the staff whatever questions you need, or give them a call at 716-874-1951.
Wonderful. We shout out to Buffalo Pet Supply, where we always tell you your expectation is their reality. All right. So let me ask you this, Stryker, in that spirit, give me your expectations on Ben Roethlisberger this season. The reality is he's old. He's just it's the facts. He's getting up there in age.
Agreed.
And so 2 questions, kind of. What is your expectation of him this season, and does he retire after the season?
I am one of the rare Steeler fans that say this is Ben's last year. I think he's done after this year. But there's 2 things that are an advantage to this happening. One, he's hungry as hell. Like, he took a pay cut this year. He just let the Steeler front office know in his press conference 2 days ago that he took a pay cut, because he said, this is the reason why I took a pay cut, so you can sign guys like TJ Watt. I mean, that sent a strong message to the team, at least in that respect. And that, I wrote that in the article there too, over at SteelerNation.com, if you guys want to roll over there and read it. But the second one is, it's his last chance to do it. He wants to go out on top like his mentor, Jerome Bettis before him, because we knew Jerome Bettis was at the end of his career that year. They ended up going to Detroit and winning it in his hometown. That was a huge, boost to them. And the team is rallying around him. So they want Ben to be able to get there, and they're going to help him both defensively and with the skill position players that they have. I also see him being a better quarterback this year. He was actually pretty freaking phenomenal last year, starting off 10-0, getting the ball out quicker than anybody else in the NFL, especially since he had to by the time we hit the second half of the season on, because of all the injuries and bang-ups across our offensive line. He put the team on his shoulders. He tried to do as much as he could, and that was his first year back from repairing 3 tendons in his elbow, in his throwing elbow. So he's got 2 years behind him now. He says he feels great. His long ball looks awesome in practice and out there and in preseason. So, I'm at least more confident this year in Ben's ability to distribute the football. I'm also, one thing that we haven't mentioned yet is, since we're no longer a quick pass attack like we were last year, like we had to be last year, we have a new offensive coordinator in Matt Canada. And This guy is going to be giving defensive coordinators around the league fits, because his job is to put skill position players in the best spot to make plays and create mismatches. He is an on the field chess player, unlike these scheme guys that we're used to seeing at the Steelers, that this is our scheme, this is the way we're going to run it. This guy's like, okay, this isn't working, we're going to do this. I see a mismatch here, we're going to run this guy on the field, we'll try this guy out there. And that's what you're going to see this year. A lot of motion, pre-snap motion, tons of it. You're going to see the same look, and we're going to run 3 different plays out of that same look. So last year, when you saw that look, everybody knew what play we were running. They're like, oh, they're running the power sweep. Oh, they're coming out. Here comes the bubble screen. Oh, that's exactly like everybody knew what we were running last year. This year, they're going to see it. You're going to see the wide receiver coming down. Oh, that's going to be a wide receiver sweep. Nope, they handed it to the up back. It's a running play. Nope, he pulled it. He booted out. Now they're throwing to the other side of the field. That's the way this is going to look this year, and it's going to be fun to watch as a Steeler fan. Just seeing standard types of offensive coordinating. Now we're going to have an offensive coordinator that's a kind of like more of a puppet master out there, putting people in the right spot, and chess master, moving guys around the field there to make plays.
Which is amazing. I'm glad you brought up Matt Canada. Obviously, we know we have Brian Daboll, one of the best offensive coordinators in the game. And with that being said, I kind of wanted to get into some over unders. I was looking at them, and let me start with this. Let's start with Josh Allen's passing total, and over under 274.5 yards.
That's pretty much spot on. Like, I see him hitting that number, to tell you the truth. So if I had to guess, like, I don't think it's going to be under it. But I think that's probably, it's going to be right there between the 250 to 300 range for this game. Okay. I think the Steelers defense is going to be a bit more explosive this year than we were used to. Adding Joe Schobert in the center, now having 2 coverage linebackers really kind of helps us out. Hopefully a little bit more in this 4 receiver sets, because our linebackers were getting ripped up last year in the slot, which you guys saw easily.
Yeah.
So having 2 coverage linebackers to hopefully diminish that a little bit, plus having athletic safeties to be able to drop down in the box with Micah Fitzpatrick and with Edmonds, not as talented as your Edmonds as well, but better brother on your side of the field. But it's still, it's going to be like, I think that this defense that the Steelers have is going to be a top 3 defense. And I think that their pass rush is going to be insane. They've added players all over in the spots where they needed to make sure that their front 7 is going to be phenomenal. Like that's it. And if they get pressure with that front 7, the back 4, which is their weakness, is still going to feast. So, because we got playmakers back there.
Wonderful. And I'm gonna ask you the same question, Matt. I wasn't rolling my eyes at Stryker. I had just got an update about Austin Eckler. He's on all of my fantasy teams, and it's just kind of scared me. But anyways, we don't have to get into that. I really got scared. But Matt, okay, over under 274 yards, Josh Allen.
I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go over.
Ooh, I was about to say, oh my God.
Only because we really haven't shown that we're gonna be a running team. Even though the first preseason game I think we ran the ball the first 10 plays, but then the last preseason game when we had all of our guys on the field, I think we threw the first 15 plays of the game. So I think just the volume of throwing, I think he's gonna go over the 300.
Okay. So Big Ben over under 262 passing yards. Stryker.
Under. Wow. We're no longer a passing team. Like last year, Big Ben 300 easy. This year, under. We're going to be more committed to the run. Now, the only way, like obviously, situational football, you get a couple turnovers, you get a big return. If it's lopsided against the Steelers, they're going to start passing.
Right.
And Ben has the opportunity then to throw up some yardage then. But ideally, if they're running their game plan, if the ball security is happening on both sides of the field, or it's shifted toward the Steelers, we're going to be heavy run this year. So I see him being at or under 250 would be my numbers for Ben.
Interesting. Matt, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Under?
I'm gonna go under also.
Okay. All right, Naji Harris over under 58.5 rushing yards.
Over. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're just committed to him. And this is, like I said, we can run this year. The left side is better. Even though we had great, we had all pro, or sorry, Pro Bowl and all pro players in David DeCastro, Pouncey, and Alejandro Villanueva on the left tackle spot, which are no longer on our team, but all 3 of them regressed last year.
They did.
Like I didn't think all 3 of them, even though some of them made the Pro Bowl, I didn't think either of them that made the Pro Bowl were Pro Bowl players. Obviously Villanueva didn't make the playoff, the Pro Bowl last year, but he was not playing at a Pro Bowl level as well. And all of them regressed in the running game. Them just committing to the run this year, he's going to get over 58. I don't think he's going to get that 100. Like Steelers, going to get 100 yards, 100. I'm a realist. I think 75 is probably the mark to push for, but I will state that combined yardage with his receiving and rushing, he will be over 100.
Write that down.
Because they're committed to running the offense through him this year, it seems.
Matt, do you think he's going to get over 58?
Yeah, I'm going to go over, just over though. Like probably, in the like I would say 60, 65.
Okay. So let me ask you this. With TJ Watt playing, over under 1.5 sacks.
Sacks are tough. You either get them or you don't in this league. Yeah. And 1.5, I'd say under, because I think a sack, he averaged a sack a game last year, just a hair over, playing in 15 games with 16.5 sacks. So,
well, do team.
That's about what his number would be. So yeah, but to average a sack a game, if he's playing, I'm saying 1. Especially since he hasn't played all season. Still doesn't mean he's not going to get his pressures.
Right.
It still doesn't mean he's not going to create havoc in that backfield. But one swipe of that hand on that football puts it on the ground, and that's a sack fumble.
Right.
So that's what he does. That's he doesn't want to sack the quarterback. He wants to get that football. That's actually what he's doing when he's coming around that edge.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking for.
So Matt, over under 1.5 sacks for the Bills defense, just the entire defense, totally. Do you think we get over or under 1.5?
I think over for sure. I think the young guy is going to get home at least once, and then we blitz too much. Like if Stryker's right in the hey, we're not going to do quick passes anymore. If Ben's going to have the young guys may show their youth on a couple plays out there, so they're going to go over 1.5 for sure. I'm not saying they're going to have a crazy amount, but we're going to get 2 at least.
Okay, so
I'd agree.
All right, so let's get into let me ask you this over under and then I guess we can just go right into predictions because they have at least one of the sports books, they have it at the over under as far as the point total at 48.5. So Stryker, will you go over and under, and you could give some analysis as to why, because it kind of talks about how the game flow will be.
I'm going to go under. I think this is going to be a defensive game. I actually think this is going to be a low-scoring game, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
This is Steelers' defense is something that you guys haven't seen yet. It's always tough first week of the season to get the offense to execute on both sides of the football, both for the Bills and for the Steelers. And then going up against good defense, like you got a much better front seven than you did last year. We've got a much better front seven than we did last year. And that's where most of the battles are going to be won, because both teams got to try to set the run to give our pass offenses time to throw. And that's just the way and the nature of the game. And I think both teams are going to have a tough time once we start getting in the throwing situation, getting the ball down the field and getting some scores, especially when you get a short field. That's when the defense gets the advantage. So I'm going to see this as a much shorter game. I'm going to see this maybe combined right around 40 points or less.
Okay.
I can see, do you want me to give it a game score prediction, or we can wait on that?
We're about to. Yeah, we're about to.
Okay, we'll wait on that. Yeah, exactly that. Under.
All right. So Matt, over under 48.5.
I think we're gonna go over because I'm kind of gonna go back on what Stryker said as far as like the offense starting slow. I think that our offense is gonna be coming out firing on all cylinders. I mean, the last preseason game where they all played together, we didn't have Diggs, and we moved the ball as like a 15-play drive. It was precise and capped it off with a 31-yard touchdown. Our offense, we like to score, and we like to score quick. So I do think that we are going to put up probably, I would say 28 plus points. We're probably going to score 30 points a game, but I think we're going to put up at least 28 on those guys. When we do our prediction, you'll see the score. But I think we're gonna, you said the over under was 48, right?
48.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I'm going to go over.
You know what though? I'm glad Matt brought that up, because that preseason game, I mean, it's really stuck in my head. And when we scored, it was 3rd and 20. And Josh Allen stood in there and he threw a zip liner to Gabriel Davis. And I know, I think that this game, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very telling game. And I was going to do storylines after the game, whether we won or lost. But I think we can say that, because I think that this Pittsburgh Steelers will be in the playoffs, and we may see them. So maybe, hopefully, we can see Stryker again. But let's go to the predictions. Because I know that's what you want to hear. So Matt, give me your prediction of this game. And I just want to tell everybody, Matt has a favorite number for the Bills. Let's hear if he says it. I'm listening, Matt.
I am going to actually say it. I think we're going to go 31-17 Bills. We're going to go 31-17 Bills. Yep.
31-17.
Okay, Stryker.
So with that score, I actually was under. But anyways, that's
right.
Not just thinking about that. Just thinking of it. That's okay. That's okay.
No, you're over.
It was a half point, right?
It was
It was a half. It was a half.
A half point killer. Those are the ones that get guys in trouble. That half point killer, man.
Half point always gets you.
That's why Las Vegas always makes the money.
Always.
So for me, my guess, like I said, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, obviously not as low-scoring if we're playing in the snow, but I just see these defenses being a little bit better. Steelers having a new offense to learn with a good defense that they're playing against, so that's going to keep their points down. I agree with the 17 points, but I think that's going to be, and I think that is going to be the Steelers scoring 17 points, so I agree with you there. Problem is, I think that the Bills are only going to score 14. So that will be my prediction for this game, would be a tight win, close, low scoring in Buffalo.
Now, one other thing I will say though, a lot of youth on the offensive line. we forgot to account for the 12th man, which I will be there for too. The Bills Mafia. We had an assist in a preseason game. So it's gonna be loud in there. I know a lot of those linemen, they played in big stadiums, but it's gonna be crazy in there.
And that's gonna be tough going up for the rookies to have to hear because that's
what I mean.
Yes. Smart call on that.
So
go 12 man.
It could be a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. You end up getting a false start penalty on the left tackle because he can't hear what the hell's going on. It's gonna, or a Freiermuth. It's gonna be crazy. So that
we'll have to see.
I can't wait for this game. It's gonna be an amazing game. Two amazing fan bases. And listen, we appreciate Stryker for coming on. He was such gracious with his time. It's just a great man. And Stryker, please let the people know, man. Let the people know where they can find you. I know you have your articles on the website. Just give the people everything.
Yep. We are on SteelerNation.com. Our podcast is now part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Network. We're going to be recording tomorrow night and airing Friday at 2:00 is going to be a podcast also with Justin Thabis, country music star, Pittsburgh's own. He's going to be on there with us as well. We're going to be asking him questions and talking a lot of Steeler football. Also, I need to do a shout out here for the t-shirt that I'm wearing, which is like my all-time favorite t-shirt. I would never wear a t-shirt for a general manager until Kevin Colbert came to the team. But this great t-shirt created by DC4L Custom Tees, and that's DC, the number 4L, CUSTOMTEES.com. Great designs up here. The Godfather as the general manager. I absolutely just love the design of the shirt. And as the Godfather said, which I think goes very well for this matchup, a friend should always underestimate your virtues and an enemy overestimate your faults. And that is the football matchup that we have coming in here this week.
Absolutely. Shout out to Stryker, man. Always something up his sleeve. Listen. We appreciate you for being on with us. We just had to let you know again, please hit us up, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Overdue Bills Pod for your merch. You know what I'm saying? I know you need your t-shirts, your hoodies, and maybe a little chilly out there. This Sunday, so hit us up. We can get that to you. And also, our website.
I'm getting mine.
Absolutely. We definitely sending him one. He's going to wear it.
One of these shows, I'll wear it.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you.
OverdueBillsPod.com. OverdueBillsPod.com. I just got the text. Our editor-in-chief, Mike, he set up the store. Everything is going. You see this hat? Overdue Bill. Listen, just order it. Go and order something. Now, I will say this. You won't get it as fast as if you hit us up. There is a shipping, delay. It's about, 10 to 12 days, give or take. So if you need it immediately, please contact us. Please contact us. We have 2 people who work at the United States Post Office. We can get it to you ASAP. But
everybody knows that I've been doing hand to hands this week, just to make sure everybody has theirs for Sunday, man. Trust me, you know me, I've been getting it out that same day. So
absolutely, Matt has been working tirelessly. He's been on the road here in Buffalo, in the streets of Buffalo. You've seen him. I'm not gonna tell you what kind of car he got, but you definitely seen him out there. So listen, we're excited about this game coming up 1:00 Sunday, and I think that's all we have. And Matt, we end this show, every show, with a little hey, 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 hey.
Hey.
I know.
Hey.